Josh, thanks for having us down. So first things first, people want to know how you're doing.
I'm alright, Tris. Good to see you as always, and I'm doing okay. I think around 12 or 13 weeks since we got hiding, and I'd say I've been back to full recovery in the last 4 weeks, maybe last 3 weeks.
Physically or emotionally?
Physically. Emotionally, it's still bugging me, but I'm using that as a motivation. Like I say, physically, for the first 4 or 5 weeks, I didn't have a chance to think about it mentally because I was recovering. I was in agony. I was embarrassed. Didn't want to leave the house. Didn't want to bump into people in the street and speak to them. Didn't want to put people into the awkward position like them not knowing what to say. And plus, I had fractured jaw and a perforated eardrum, so I would be like, "What did you say, mate?" And then as I'm talking, after a while, my jaw would start hurting and I'd start slavering and it looks like I'm punching. So I didn't want to put that persona out that Josh don't look well at all. And then when I did start feeling alright 5-6 weeks after, I wanted to get back in the gym, but it wasn't hurting, and I'm thinking, oh well, maybe because I had these physical injuries, then that's covered it. But I was still wondering, why is it not hurting? You know, why is it not bothering me? Or maybe I'll just get back in the gym, just crack on with it. And then I would say, over the last 4 weeks, watching the shows. I was actually at the Chisora fight, Parker beating that scenario, because that was meant to be my day, Tris.
Yeah,
that was meant to be my night. You know, I was meant to fight 8 weeks later, and that was going to be my fight against Kanju, rescheduled. And being in that arena, and, you know, it's 20 minutes in between fights because they've got to clean the ring and all that. Just a bit quiet and looking around, thinking, "Fuck's it up, Anna," you know. And then watching the shows, it started to hurt right inside. You know, when I'm watching like lads on the telly have the success, obviously pleased for them, but at the same time jealous, envious, because it's like I should have carried on my bit of success and it all come crashing when I didn't expect it to. So it's hurting. It's like it's a knotting pain inside. And when I think about it when I'm laid in bed, it hurts like, and I want to get up and start doing something. I want to do some press-ups or start shadowboxing, but with that being said, I can use that as motivation. Like last week I was running, I was about to hit the brick wall, about 3 or 4 miles in, wait for my second wind to kick in. I was just doing a 6 mile run. All of a sudden I'm start thinking about everything what's gone on and when I want to be back. I'm full of adrenaline. I'm fucking sprinting, Tracy. I'm in a full sprint, so it's gonna be. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It's just that fire's burning.
So things have certainly changed since we last spoke in person.
Yes.
Like when we spoke in person, like you were flying high. You were looking at unification fights, stadium shows. There was a big talk about Las Vegas and you being sort of a modern day Ricky Hatton and taking your huge legion of Leeds fans over. How would you describe where you're at now? Is it a rebuild, or where are you in terms of your career now? How do you see things?
Obviously, with the big gaps between fights due to COVID and whatnot, it's a little bit of frustration, and like I want to get this little blip that I've had, I want to get that changed. I want to rewrite that and just put it to bed and then carry on where I am. You know, I'd like to think in a perfect scenario I could get through this one and potentially be in a big fight before Christmas. You know, there's times when I could have a little sulk and feel sorry for myself and feel I've been a victim, like many people of this COVID situation. You know, when we re-signed with Matchroom in early 2020, I just come off of 2 fantastic years. Momentum was in my stride. Like you say, I was talking about a big unification fight with Kanju in Headingley, you know, that following May or June, Then Eddie said he wanted to keep me busy, he wanted to have me out to the States, maybe in August, and then maybe again, Gary Russell Jr., Navarrete, all them big fights out there, they're out for me, and obviously all them got paused on hold. So, and in that time, I've added 16 months onto my career, and I've boxed once.
Did you have COVID?
I had COVID, yeah.
Did you have it bad?
I don't know. I wouldn't say bad, but I was in bed for a few days.
Because there's been. I don't think there's been any studies done.
Yeah.
But subsequently, quite a few people who've had COVID haven't been the same in the ring afterwards. They talk about Povetkin, talks about Josh Kelly and stuff like that. But I don't know if it's related or not.
Campbell's that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's interesting to sort of factor that into the equation. You talking about the COVID thing, obviously, which is what brought me onto this point. Is probably no one had a worse deal through COVID in boxing than you in terms of where you were and what you wound up with. Because obviously you talk about those big fights, and then you end up fighting in Lara, who you said obviously in a fight where you didn't really want to fight. Yeah. He wasn't on your radar, and in a you're used to working off the crowd with no crowd.
Yeah.
It was probably the complete opposite of what you were going to have and what you wound up having. Psychologically, how hard was that to deal with?
On reflection, I thought that I'd been dealing with it all pretty well, but then when I have a deeper thought of it, probably didn't deal with it too well because my mind won't fully on the job. Mind won't fully on the job in hand. So.
What was on the next job?
Yeah, I rewind a little bit. We'll try to give you a better scope of the picture. So I had COVID in August 2020. Recovered, and my manager said, "Listen, you need to get back in camp because we're talking about having you out in late November." So I'm on it. I'm on it. I've been training anyway. Prior to that, I live in the gym. I love the sport, and whilst you're at the top of the tree, you want to
live the life.
Live the life, exactly. So I'm on it. I'm training hard. I'm training very hard. Flying, about to start all sparring, and then November turns into December, and there's talks of me and AJ going on a card together, potentially in the Middle East. Then AJ ends up fighting in London, so that's gets squashed. That's going to go out until the new year. It's Canju. It's Canju, February the 13th. I'm hearing that we're going to have an announcement in early December, then it turns to like 20th December, then it turns to... Sky was meant to come up here on Christmas Eve, but they wanted to come up about like 7:30 to do the announcement. I've got the artwork on my phone, but I said, fuck that lads, it's Christmas Eve, man, I want to spend it with my kids. My kids are just they're free, they're at a stage where they understand what it's all about, so I was like, nah, it's not happening. Alright, we'll come do Boxing Day. Alright, fair enough, that makes sense. Boxing Day, all that, you can tie it together. Boxing Day, they never came. Alright, no worries. Then it got to like 28th, and they're still not heard out. Then I heard it was going to get announced just after New Year's Day. Alright, fair enough. Then that turned into like the first week in January, and you start thinking, something's going wrong here, it should be announced by now, and then all of a sudden, so it's off. Now, in boxing terms, sometimes you hear little whispers, you get an idea, rumours are going about, have you heard this, have you heard that? And once you get a little sniff, you can start preparing yourself. But this one came like within an hour. My manager texted me, Steve, saying, looks like the fight's off. Just completely out of the blue. We were like we're about five and a half weeks away. What do you mean it's nearly off? It's looking like it's off. Then an hour later, it's definitely off. So my head's been thrown, but the TV date still needs filling for February the 13th. Now, I'm still thinking, I'm preparing for this one. I've been in camp a long time already. So they try to get me an opponent straight away. Opponents were getting offered, and opponents were turning it down. Understandably, with late notice, they were a decent pay packet, but they're not going to try fight the world rank number 1 on such short notice. And then after that, Galad kicked a stink up as well. He exercised as right as manager challenger, so we had all that stuff with the IBF. And I'm thinking, wow, what's happening? You know, it was all plain sailing just last week, and now it looks like I'm going to give him a title, and the fight with Kanju's fallen off. We had an opponent lined up, and then the TV network said that's not good enough. So then Lara came up, and it just got to the stage where, yeah, whatever. It was just.
Had you heard of Lara?
Not really. You wouldn't have done, would you? He's not in the top 10, not in the top 20. So you wouldn't really done. We looked at him and we thought, yeah, maybe. You know, he said maybe nice to break the ice of being out for nearly.
Yeah, because you've been inactive.
Yeah, exactly, for 15 months.
Yeah.
And even though he'd been out 4 times or whatever, I was out flying and sparring and training and stuff like that. So it won't be no problem. But you know, going back to your initial question, that all had an effect on me when it came to the actual night, because the fight with Zhu had been rearranged for around, like I said, the Chisora Parker date. That should have been my date, and you know, my schedule was on the Monday. You know, we'll come back up 2 hours after the fight and start filming. And any time I've gone into the ring, Tris, I've always focused on that fight and that fight only. I always knew that you get through this one, then bit more things can happen. Like for instance, get through Sealand, then your fight with Selby's going to happen, and it was just a little bit different because I kind of had 80% of me head in the ring with Lara and 20% on the fight with you, and I was like, oh, warm into it.
It's difficult as well. Like, I'm not going to say that necessarily that you believe the hype, but when you're on a run of momentum like you did have, you do take things for granted, I guess. You do think that you're going to walk through anybody, or you think that you have the ability. You're world number 1 or one of the top guys in the world. The assumption is that you're going to win your fights. 100%. I guess you have that confidence.
100%, and I don't need nobody else to tell me out there. I'll tell you myself. I didn't fucking believe me on hype, and I thought I'd got over all that. I didn't think I'd be that cocky or cocksure and ever treat an opponent like it's just a given. But I thought to myself, there's no way this guy is going to be able to mix it with me. I thought, he's certainly not going to be as fit for 12 rounds, he's not mixed in my league, so it'll be mine. But again, on reflection, when I was in there, the first 10 seconds I hit him with a right hand on the top, and I always start fast. You know, throughout my career, look back at any of my fights, I always start fast, warm into it, take the opponent's soul, take charge of the fight, and I hurt him, and in my head I thought I'll warm into it. But in also that way of thinking, as I was trading, I was cocky in that, like, well, thinking to myself, I can just go at high pace, throwing shots like I could dig in maybe Carl, and that'd be it. I'll take charge of it from there, and you know, get it over and done with. But when I look back at it, it wasn't the same because I didn't have the fear of him. Whereas like I'd feared Carl, I'd feared that someone could come back. You
started to box like you were going to walk through him.
Yeah, exactly. Just it was a given. He's not my league, so it's just a given, and that obviously is a wrong attitude to have, because as every round went by, in the first 4, his confidence grown. Hold on a minute, I'm in this, I'm landing shots. He was landing clean on me, and I was landing clean on him, but he was landing clean on me, so his confidence will have grown. And I just chipped away, and caught me clean in the 4th, and you know, well, the rest is history of how the fight went.
Was that the point, or was there a point beforehand where you thought, this is getting away from me, this fight?
Obviously, getting it, you know, it's a good question, Tristan. I think I didn't feel myself. I'll be honest. I didn't feel myself like even walking to the ring, like I normally.
Your stablemate had lost early as well.
I mean, my stablemate had lost early, but I try not to let that affect me too much, and I had a job in hand myself. So, you know, obviously there's a bit of a bad energy in the corner, but I'm trying not to focus on actually coming to my change rooms. But throughout the years, Tris, I've got used to keeping my nerve, and then when we walk to the ring, I'll come out of the auditorium and I look around and I see people's faces and bam, adrenaline comes rushing through my blood. Now, I knew that the crowd wasn't be there, but I thought that when I got on top of the ramp, that it all come rushing in naturally every time I got to work. And I'm laughing and joking with Ralph, the floor manager, and he's like, Josh, up you go. So I go up the steps, and it never came. I'm jumping about and I'm trying to get myself psyched up, and it's not come.
It looked forced in fight week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It looked like, you know, when you sort of, you know, as you do that sort of Leeds Warrior Raw, whether it's a weigh-in or whatever, when you arrive, you feed off the crowd, and it looked like it was, and it's organic. Whereas obviously what you have without the fans and all the rest of it, you're trying to generate something that doesn't necessarily come from within, that has come from the fans.
Well, your point there, I think that is down to two reasons. One, because I was in the bubble, and obviously I know that everyone else has had to do with the bubble as well, but I was the main event, so fucking face plastered all over the hotel, face all over the lift, you know, media is on you, and obviously undercard I've got to do media as well, but it's on you.
Sure.
When I do media, normally when I'm in Leeds, it's a case of like, do your media, come home, and that's why I don't go away for camps, because I come home, I switch off. When I'm with the kids, I'm not Josh Warrington, the boxer. I'm daddy. So my missus, I'm Josh. You know, so I'm able to switch off. But when I was in the hotel, I'm constantly like that. I'm constantly sat up looking, because he might walk past, or opponent might walk past, or someone else might walk past, and you know, you switched on. Then I go back to my room, and there's only me in there. So I'm never switching off.
Yeah.
And like in the first 2 days of being in that bubble, adrenaline constantly coursing through my veins, I'm fucking like on edge. By the time it come to fight day and I was on with scales and stuff, it was like, let's just get this done with, get home, and then resume camp, because you know, in 8 weeks time we've got all to go again. Yeah, I've got a real big one, so there was that kind of mentality in there. I just thought, I'll just get this done. It's just a job. It's just a steady job. Get it done, and I'll go back to, you know, the big fight. Get back to camp and prepare for the hard fight. But yeah, like just going back to what we said there about walking to the ring. When I got in the ring, bouncing off the ropes, I'm looking over, and again, there wasn't that killer edge about me. Just thought, it's a given. I'm looking over. I'm kind of like fucking looking over, feeling sorry for him. You know, introducing him, giving him a massive clap and that, touch gloves, and it's like normally I'm pumped and I'm fueled and I'm looking him in the eyes, but I'm like, yeah, here we go, walking by, just get this done with, and you know, get out and get home. That's what my mentality was, but wrong mentality, and I paid for it, Tris.
Is he the guy you want to fight next?
Yes.
Above everybody, even if the Kanzu fight was offered now, you want Lara next?
The Kanzu fight has been offered, but I want to take care of Lara first. I couldn't sit there and watch somebody else from around the world, and especially from over here, beat him. That'd pain me. He's the one who's having my first loss, and I'd like to think my only loss in my career, and it's like it'd niggle me for the rest of my days if I'm never able to get revenge, as it was.
What happens if he's got your number?
If he's got my number, he's got my number, but I just don't believe he has. You know, when I put him down to everyone else who've boxed, now we're talking 30 fights from your Selbys, Framptons, Sealands, Amagasas, Joe Brunkners, Martinez's, Galahad. Does he have the same boxing ability as a Dennis Silan or the Lee Selby? Is he as tall and awkward as an Amagasa, or has he got the footwork of a Kid Galahad? Can he punch as hard as Kiko Martinez or Carl Frampton? Yeah, he can punch, but he's not the hardest puncher that I've been in there with. So when you add all these things up and you compare, well, it shouldn't even mix, because I've mixed it.
How can you say he's not the hardest puncher you've been in there with? Just
because you get an idea of it, Tris. You get an idea of it. Like, I always tell myself when I put my gloves on, and this might sound cliche, that I've been knocked out and it's caused the most damage that I've ever had, but I always tell myself on the day of the fight, you know, you remind yourself when you put the 8-ounce gloves on. So I've got a pair of 8-ounce gloves and I take them with me in an hotel and remind myself at the day of the fight that this is not a fucking joke now. I've been done it 30 years, but I still do that every single time. I didn't do it this time on the last fight, so maybe that's a bad thing, but I always remind myself that, yeah, there's no in these gloves, you can cause damage, but at the same time, you're going to receive damage. You know, they're wearing 8-ounce gloves as well. There's sod all in them really. You've no big head guard on there. You know, you haven't got the big 16 ounces where it can fully protect your face. You haven't got your head guard and cheek protectors on. So shots where you might, you know, just parry off can get through these gaps. And I always make myself wary in the first couple of rounds of keeping an eye guard, catching on arms and elbows and gloves. You just get an idea of people's power. And when I went out for the first round, obviously a lot of shots I was stood up for without defence, but you know, when the shots were catching on my arms and the gloves, I thought, yeah, he's got a bit behind him, but it wasn't the hardest. Like when the first round I walked out against Amagasser and he threw a bit of big shots and let go, I thought, he can hit. Martinez, when he come walking out and he pushed me onto ropes and he started nailing away, I thought, he's got a bit of sting behind his punches. But him, I thought, yeah, he's got a foot behind him, but he's not, you know, the worst that I've been in there. So, but again, it goes down to later in the fight how I approached the rest of the fight with like a cockshot attitude of just sitting up and not really taking defence into account.
Have you sparred since?
No.
Do you think there will be any element of you that's remotely gun shy now?
I hope not.
Does it cross your mind? Or have you not thought that far ahead? Do you know when you're going to spar?
Yeah. I want to spar as soon as possible, but I think because I've taken so long to recover from my injuries, I don't want to push that back any further. So. Have
you been medically cleared to spar again?
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw doctors and stuff?
Was 2 weeks back.
And they said, they gave you the all clear to carry on?
Yeah.
Have you and the missus had heart-to-hearts about your future after that fight?
Not really as such. I mean, I think if anything, she's always been that confident that I'd do the business because she sees how much I train and how much dedication I put into it. So I've always thought to myself, you don't fucking care that much. And she always says to me, Josh, it's how much you train and how much you sacrifice and how much you put yourself and how much mentally you go through things that you don't worry me because I know how much you put into it, and I just think that can't be beaten. I think after the last one, like it was a bit of a shock to her to see that, especially against the fight that was in. You know, when I've told her going into some of the bigger fights that this could be a big run, and she's kind of prepared herself for that. But this time round, I think maybe my cockshot attitude had.
She's not ready for it.
No, I'm not ready for what happened. So she'd have me retire tomorrow because she just wants me at home. She wants me to be daddy, and obviously she likes me, you know, being happy when I'm in training and getting ready for the fights and things. But she's not asked about Josh the boxer, just all about Josh the person, you know. So her and my manager Steve, which is a rarity to hear from managers, don't want me to be boxing forever.
You're talking like you still got the boxing bug. You want to do it. You want to get in there. You want to fight again. You want to right that wrong. You still want those big fights, which is great because you got that energy. Yeah. Like it's still surging within you, right? Yeah,
fucking it's alright. It's like it's not going to win. If anything,
you want to hit me right now.
It's come back even more. So I think it's because I just got in a bit of a rut. I mean, like I say, the whole gap between being out for 15 months, it chips away at you, you know, especially when you're in here training and there's no end goal. You know, you keep on hearing this is going to happen now.
And you're in your prime years as
well. Yeah, on reflection, I think to myself, I can sit and dwell as much as I want, and I sit and think, oh man, if fucking this COVID bollocks wouldn't have happened, you know, I'd have had my big fight at Edinley. You know, my minute was in my stride. I'd just come off of Selby, Frampton, Galahad, Coach, 4 big wins, going straight into another big fight. Revamped career with you know, signing with Matchroom, and then go over to the States, and where would he be now? You know, I'd have had 2 or maybe 3 fights in 2020. Could have been to my 4th year. You know, I could have been at a stage where fucking belts don't matter. You know, the profile could have just gone off in a different direction. Like, we'll just get whatever fights entertaining. Could have stepped up weight. Who knows where I could have been now? But I still feel like I'm a bit of unfinished business. You know, I've been saying, and I still believe that I can win another world title. And in a minute, I feel like I've fucking gone back quite a distance. But you know, beating Lara and getting straight back into them big ones could, you know, parachute me even
further up to where you
forward.
were.
Yeah.
So talking about this boxing bug, going back, were you bitten by the boxing bug from the start? Were you into boxing as a kid, or did you find the gym first and then get into it? How did that work?
How it worked was, when I was a kid, I just wanted to play football. I'm dog shy because I didn't understand the team ethos of it. I just wanted to grab the ball, be selfish, and run about that. I think that's because we used to just play Wembley or Champs on the football field, and that were my idea of football. I didn't understand the team and positions and all that stuff until I was quite older. But by this time I'd found a boxing gym. I had started karate, but I only did like 3 or 4 lessons because I just didn't have the patience, and my dad had seen that because I enjoyed the physical side where we were punching and kicking each other and doing flips to each other, but doing the things like the katas and that, I didn't have the patience for that. So he took me to a boxing gym, and I started doing it and enjoyed the training. I enjoyed sparring, and just like any other kid, you know, you get distracted. You want to go out and play with your mates. You don't want to train every single night. And I don't at the time when we were training 3 days a week. For them 2 hours a long time, especially when you got to do road work and do shadow boxing, and you think this is pointless. Let me just spar. But every time my dad had said, "Listen, you're going to pack boxing in because you've missed tonight's session, or you don't want to go to," I couldn't do it. And it's not because I felt like I was letting him down. I felt like I was letting myself down. You know, it got to a stage where all of a sudden I'm 11 and I'm taking part in you know, a contest as an amateur, and it fully bit me. I couldn't give it up. As much as times, especially when you reach adolescent years, when you're into your teenage years, you know, your pals are going to house parties and doing this, that and other, and you want to do it as well. I just couldn't let the boxing go. It's like I couldn't put it to bed.
Did you do that other stuff?
Not really, mate, because I think I'd been disciplined too much. Like I'd been in the gym since like 7 or 8 years old. I'd been disciplined for a very long time.
What did your parents do?
Work-wise?
Yeah.
My mum was, she worked in as a housemaid in an hotel, and then my dad was a plumber and then a taxi driver. So that were their jobs. But like by the time I got to my teenage years, they fell out, and the gym was a distraction for me. It was a distraction because they had their rocky moments. So like when I was around 14, 15, and by this time I was sparring with pros. I was sparring likes of Dale Robinson, Jason Booth, Gary Sykes, and I'd won schoolboys. I'd done alright, but a few decent lads in amateurs, and that was kind of my distraction, to be fair, when they were carrying on.
So you found that hard with your parents?
Yeah, I think no kid wants to leave school, like come home from school and then walk into a
war zone.
World War II, yeah, and that's what more or less it was like, and it just took everything away, and I think it was a chance for me and my old fella to have a little bit of one-on-one time and just get him as a normal, what the fella I was used to. whereas when he was at home, he couldn't really speak to him because he was just arguing with him all the time. So yeah, that was a welcome distraction.
How come you're Warrington and he's O'Hagan?
Just because of when I was young, he wasn't with my mum.
Right.
And then that's it really.
Okay. But so the boxing brought you and your dad closer though?
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like compared to my brothers, I've had time with my dad where they hadn't had, you know, and it's a little bit selfish of myself, you know, but I can do nothing about that, and I always try to, any type of like reward I get going forward, I always try to rub off into them. For instance, our kid lives in one of my houses that I own, and anytime I get like tickets to or any VIP things at Leeds United, they're both massive Leeds United fans. I make sure that they're first on the list, just because time that I got with my old fella, he can't give him it back, and I try to make sure that time when he gave me was worth it, because I can pass it. Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah.
What was your first Leeds game? Do you remember?
Leeds versus Spurs on a weeknight. We're in Premier League. I think 1-2, 1 or 3, something like that. But yeah.
Do you know what year that was?
2001. Yeah, 2000. Yeah.
20 odd years ago.
Yeah. I didn't go for the ages because I would have a dwarf until I still am one of small. But when I was like 11 years old, I was 28 kilos. I was like, that's 4 stone and a bit. And the old fella said, you'd be no good because if you didn't stand you up at seat, you have to stand on seats and stuff. But he finally took me. My 10th or 11th birthday, so yeah, fantastic memories.
Were you good at the start when you with boxing?
I had competitiveness. I have the competitive edge. So if I was sparring, you know, little memories that I do have was just I didn't want to be the last one to finish throwing punches. I was always like a fit kid because I was always out. I mean, this were the era prior computers and everything taking over. So it were take your ball to the field and go play football, and the source of energy were a bag of crisps. in 4 hours of playing football non-stop, just chasing the ball, then go out with your mates playing hide and seek and whatever.
Just on the go.
Climbing trees as hey, but you can't climb that, but I can. Up I go. So non-stop, going out on your bike at 10 in the morning, not coming home until, in summer months, until it gets dark, and you're not seeing your mum and dad all day. That were like my kind of childhood. So I was always active, and I always had a bit of fitness in there, so I was able to do things quite well, and I always wanted to impress the coaches. I wanted them to pat me on the back. I liked the accolade. I liked being told I've done good. And I was always searching for that. I don't know why. I wanted that. If we're at school, I wanted to win a certificate, just maybe competitiveness. But I liked having the fucking pat on the shoulder. And the approval. So I wanted to make my jabs the best. I wanted to do well in sparring. So they said, good round at the end of it, and I'd fucking take that home and buzzing off it. It was like a little drug.
Were you good in school?
Yes. Yeah, I was until the latter end. In my head, when I got into school, I thought, fucking hell, I'll be able to learn another language, I'll be able to do this, I'll be able to do that. My life skill set benefit so much, because I didn't see school as just a time to fuck about with that. I thought this is time to improve life skills. I've always had certainly when I was younger, I had a wise head on young shoulders, and I knuckled down for like the first 3 years of school, and outside of school, I used to get up to a little bit of mischief with my pals and stuff like that. We used to, get chases as you would, throw eggs at buses and taxi drivers and get them to chase after you. And
your dad driving the car?
Yeah. It was a burst of adrenaline. Then fucking hell, they're going to get us, not knock on people's door and running away. And you think, you little bastard, what you do that for? But at the time, as kids, it was funny to do, and I fucking cringe a little bit now, but that was what you did.
Kids stuff.
Yeah, kids stuff. And but whilst I was in school, I just that thing had followed through with me. I wanted to just knuckle down, and I wanted, I wanted to be top of the class. Some of my pals would be in sets above me in higher classes, and I wanted to fucking be in that class with them. I wanted to be I was in the top set, so I knuckled down hard for the first 3 years, and I was predicted A's, A stars and B's, and by the time I finished school I came out with like 11 A's to C's. I would all like B's and C's, because by that time home was a full of fucking warfare. Like there was no way I was like revising it as at home, you know, it couldn't have happened. It just, there was no peace in the house. And secondly, the boxing had taken over. Boxing had completely taken over. I wasn't going home and getting my head down in boxing revision. I was getting my head down in going for a run, or going to gym, sparring. I was going to school absolutely knackered. And on weekends, when people were going, you know, maybe not doing the revising, going to house parties and doing whatever, yeah, every now and again I'd go along, but it were training and looking after my little brothers as well. So
what was the highlight of your amateur time? You had 48 fights, right?
I think so. I think about 40 odd, something like 43, 44.
Okay.
Around that. I went to schoolboys that were nice to.
You fought Barry in the amateurs, didn't you?
Twice, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, beat him twice. I had an absolute scrap on his own show, won that, and then I beat him quite convincingly in junior BAs, because I'd boxed him in that first fight and it was so scrappy. I knew that I had to change it a little bit, so it was just a case of high guard. Every time he threw a shot, bam, bam, counter. I beat him like 14-1 on computer scoring, so quite convincingly.
And at what point did the teeth thing come in, the working in dentists and that kind of stuff?
So.
And how? I mean, was that a career path? You think I'm gonna work in dentistry?
No, listen, I didn't fucking know what dental technician was. So I think most people don't. When I tell people I used to be dental technicians, what, you sold that sucker and pass the dentist the tools? That no, I didn't know anything like that. How it came about was I got to 16, I'd left school, I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do. I think my thoughts had completely changed. You know, I thought I was going to be a PE teacher or something like that, and I was just disillusioned with like school, because I'd not really knuckled down the last 2 years. Being a professional was still 2 years away, so I didn't know you couldn't do that while you were 18. I remember someone coming in from Royal Marines, and I wanted to apply for that, and my officer said, just give boxing a little bit of a go. And I said, I can't turn pro while I'm 18, Daddy. He went, just give it a go, just wait on. He said, if it doesn't work out, you can always join, you know, the forces later on. So I started doing sixth form just because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Most of my pals had trades or they were going off to college to go on to university, and I just wouldn't remember the road, so I just fell into sixth form, and I was studying sport and psychology, and my first assignment for sport I got an A star. Fantastic. The teacher, I remember him saying, can I keep this behind and for future reference, because this is absolutely fantastic. And I put heart and soul into it, but I just couldn't be bothered no more. So I bummed about for about 2 months doing nothing. But by this time, my mum and dad split up. Me and my 2 brothers were living with my dad, and my sister was going to live with my mum. And you know, I think my dad was finding that balance hard of like being a mum and a dad. You know, like trying to look after us in terms of cooking too. So I thought, fucking, I need to help out here. So I'd started applying for jobs and things like that. You know, just like sales assistants in shops and shit like that, but I wasn't getting any further. I didn't fucking know how to write a CV or all like that, so probably doing that wrong. And then he had a pal who had the dental lab. He said, I've got you a job. So I went up to have a meeting with Phil, and fucking hell, I wasn't asked about it, just teeth, you know, but it meant I got paid. So I started doing it, and I went on a 3-month trial, and it was just little things like emptying bins and just helping out and making these models. So when people are getting work done, the dentist will take an impression, send it to the lab, and then we'd make a model of them, of the patient's teeth, and then work can be done, whether it's a crown or veneer or whatever it needs doing, it's done off that little frame. So I was making them, but I knew you could make them gum shields as well. So I was able to get loads of handmade gum shields like for nothing. So this is alright. And after 3 months, the gaffer turned around to me and said, "Listen, you've you've got your eye on at this. He said, but if you want to go any further, you have to be qualified in it to go any further as a job. So I'm willing to send you to university. Now it's a 4-year course, but I'll pay for you. And my old fella said, listen, if the boxing doesn't work out, it's something to fall back on. It's a career. And I thought, right, fair enough, So I did it, and I climbed the ladder quite far in the dental world, and I carried on working until I were European champion. I didn't stop working until back in early 2015.
Would you ever go back to it?
Probably not, because it wasn't my passion, and I tried very hard whilst I was at it, but like I say, I fell into it, and I give it 100% whilst I did it, but I think there'd be other things what I'd do before going back to the teeth.
You turned pro in 2009. What was the dream and what was realistic?
British title, and I thought that my whole career would take it. I never looked past the British title, so in my head I have 12 or so years to become a British champion. That was it. If I could get an house more or less paid off and a car on the drive, that's a bonus. But my inspiration was seeing sparring with Dale Robinson, Jason Booth, Carl Johansson, Gary Sykes in the early days, Jamie McDonald in the early days. I helped Jamie McDonald for his fight with Ian Napper. I helped Gary Sykes inspiring for his British title fights, and seeing them boys come back with the goods, holding that Lord Lonsdale. It's like, I tell Gary this constantly, and I've said it like over years, even when he said, fucking hell, look how well you're doing, Josh. I said, Gary, I'll never forget the moment of seeing you in the change rooms, when you come back to change rooms with that British title over your shoulder. You had a fucking aura around you, aura around you, you were glowing. I thought, wow, if I could just be like that man that night. That's all I wanted to do. Cheers.
So Boxing News said of your report, it was Andy Whittle who covered it. It said Leeds first timer Josh Warrington impressed. It said that Delroy Spencer took everything, especially a heavy barrage at the end of the third, and that you had to hold on a lot to survive the fourth. You said there that you wanted to fight possibly for 12 years, which is, I think we've just hit 12 years, haven't we?
Yeah.
You won your first 6, all 4 rounders, all were 4 rounders on points. You fought a bunch of tough guys like Ibra Riaz, Mark Callahan. What were you getting from fighting guys like that?
Experience. Many people, and at the time you don't realise that, but well, it's only when you look back as you get older. Age teaches wisdom, doesn't it? And at the time, people were saying to me, old fella, he's not a featherweight, he's a super light. He can make bantam. Why ain't he dieting? Like, why ain't he making them? I was walking around to at like 9'2", and I was fighting these guys, and they were coming in heavier than me, these journeymen, and I never had any like Eastern Europeans come over. These were all tough journeymen who were fighting week in, week out, so they're not getting stopped. They're surviving. They didn't want that 28-day suspension. And I'd think to myself, I do alright when I'm in the gym and I'm sparring around. I know I can hit, but I can't seem to do it with these big guys. But if anything, it taught me experience, mate. It taught me experience. Like, I was a boy, and like when I first turned pro, 18, and even till I was about 21, I started fucking boys like frame. Didn't have the maturity and the strength compared to some of the boys that I was going in with. I mean, before fight, I boxed a fella called John Riley, and I was like 19, and he fucking would have solid geezer, 29 year old, and little things like being in the exchange, even in pushing him off with his forearm, that felt like damage. So I had to be clever and smart, and at times I could stand and trade, and then other times I had to get on my bike and box a little bit. So I learned a lot of ring craft. I got a lot of experience in there. I didn't obviously have the knockouts coming, but it didn't matter because
It's all experience.
Yeah, of course,
we'll come on to the knockouts. But you made a significant step up when you beat 11-0 Chris Mail for the English title. You were 12-0.
Yeah.
And it was actually your first opponent with a winning record.
Yes. Yeah. With that being said, first opponent with a winning record. But you look down my career. I boxed a lot of people who were half decent. I mean, I'm sure Chris Riley, John Riley's brother, had a winning record. I'm sure we were 3-2 when I boxed him. He was meant to fight Brendan Monroe actually, but Brendan Monroe had signed with Ricky Hatton's promoter, so I had to fill in the void, and I took that fight at short notice.
Okay.
And there were a lot of guys who, like Danny McDermott, I boxed him on my third fight, and he was from Leeds and he'd lost to Teddy Flanagan. So he was up and coming as well. So I had a fair few fights what were like that.
Yeah.
And I had some journeymen who were at the start of their journeyman career, like Pavel Senkos went on to be a regular.
Yeah.
But when I boxed him, he had like 14 fights and he had a few wins in there. I boxed Ian Bailey.
Yeah.
When he was on that transition of going from a journeyman to becoming a contender again.
Still feisty.
Yeah. So I had a lot of hard fights, and then I had fights like Mark Callan who he was at the back end of his career, so he'd kind of just gone into genuine career, but he was still dangerous if you'd let him. So
100%. I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at. Riaz as well, fancy.
The one guys who were coming back. I know I need to just get fucking bent over. They were there to push me and give me a hard night's work. And if they could see an opportunity to beat me, then I'm sure they would have done. But when it comes to Mail, like I'd been chomping at the bit for a while for a title fight. Now, as boxers, you want it instantly, don't you? And you don't realise that it takes time and you've got to build up. And it got to a stage where my fan base was beginning to grow a little bit. I'd been selling tickets to different folk, and I had a few regulars who were, beat the last 4 or 5. And like, when you start looking at titles, Josh, and there was talks of me fighting Michael Ramble-Aster for a Masters title. Remember the old Masters titles?
Yeah.
I was going to fight for one of them, and then I was sparring Jazza Dickens, and I damaged my hip. I don't know what the hell I did with it. I moved funny, and I had to pull out that fight about 5 weeks to go. And then when that healed, my manager phoned me and he said, it's decent money, but it's away from home, English title against an unbeaten fella, Chris Mail. And I went car with my dad, and my dad went, do you fancy it or what? And he just wanted my initial reaction. I said, yeah, alright. And he went, are you sure? Because you haven't that too clever. I went, yeah, let's have it. So went down to Dudley, boxed him in his hometown. I've got pictures, Tris, I'll have to send you them over. That one again, another boy versus man. The weigh-in, I fucking look like a good gust of wind had blown me over, and he's solid, and I'm like, how the fuck is he 9 stone? But that was a full-on war.
Yeah, Boxing News said, Boxing News called you the Leeds punching machine. Matt Bozier said the bout was a terrific competitive scrap for a furious pace from first bell to last.
Yeah.
This was in Dudley, obviously, as you say. The report caught my eye because it said Mail was cheered on by the majority of people there. That had to be unusual. Certainly it hasn't happened often where you've actually gone into the lines then often, and there's been people obviously coming to Leeds, so you felt that hostility for the first.
Yeah, well, I felt it anyway because I've not boxed at Leeds. I'd only boxed in Leeds once, and not on a Matt Bateson show, so I'd only been like further down the card. Everywhere else, my fans had travelled with me. Then I was fighting in different venues up and down the country, and that was the first time. Well, it wasn't the first time I'd boxed away, because I would always box away, but the first time I'd boxed in someone else's in big crowd, and I was shying myself. I remember
now you know what it's like.
Yeah, I remember stood there, and Frank Hopkins is stood at the side of me, and all these entourage are shouting, "Come on, Billy boy, let's fucking show these lads what we're about. We're the boys from the Black Country." And Frank Hopkins just calmed me down. He went, "What are they all carrying on about, mate? Come on, we've got our business to do." And gets to ring, and I took about 80 or 90 people down, and the rest of them were all these fans, and the venue held about 1,000 people. And like I say, 90% of them were these fans, and it was intimidating. But I did my lot proud, and they made plenty of noise. And for 4 or 5 rounds, it was just a full-on scrap. And then I hurt him. I just couldn't get him out there, and it was a time where I would come back to Stolen. My dad were giving me all kinds of motivation, and I was absolutely knackered. But when you have to find something beyond fitness and everything else, it was somewhat deep in there what able to pull me over the line, and it was a full-on scrap. And the first time I'm thinking, wow, you know, these are only going to get harder, and I need to train harder in the gym.
So afterwards, you told Matt Bozier, you said, I wanted this belt so much.
Yeah.
The world title wasn't even a thing to you then, was it?
No, it wasn't aiming at the world title.
It was the English title.
My missus drove me down because she had a brand new Ford Fiesta Z-Tech, and that was a lovely car compared to my battered Polo. So she drove home after, and I drove home with that English title over my waist. Mate, I felt like a world champion just there and then. You know, I went back to work that following Tuesday because I had Monday off, and I felt like fucking. I walked into work, and all lads in there were like, "Champ, you've done it," and I took it round to the signing shop after. Look at these. Listen, I was absolutely beside with that. Blown away with being English champion.
You beat friend of this show, Jamie Spate. This time, Andrew Wake for Boxing News said he actually started his report saying personally you'd sold 500 tickets. So tell us, I know we've talked about this before in the past, we've sort of gone into it in depth, which is great, unlike anyone I've ever heard explaining the ticket thing, but what does selling 500 tickets to a show look like? And are you doing that on your own? Are you leaving them at places and people are picking up 50 or whatever? Do you have agents working for you? Is it not high price agents, but I mean friends as agents where you're sort of giving them 100 and like how does it work?
So in the early stages it was just me. It was just me and my box.
Do you call that the early stages? 500 people?
Yeah.
Is that what you say?
Yeah,
so 500 is still early doors.
Listen, I would still do sell tickets. So obviously I've not done that side with Matchroom again since I re-signed with them. But that stage has been with Frank and when I first with Eddie. You know, they would expect me to order 2,000-3,000 tickets. So, and when you look at that, you know, some League One football clubs don't sell that amount of tickets, and they've got staff working. That's their full-time job to sell tickets and deal with all the admin and things like that. Now, this is one man and his band
and his polo.
Yeah, they're doing it. And wow, mate, in the early stages, it was tough. It was tough. If anything, that built resilience and a thick skin and that was the determination, because I was still working 9 to 5, 4 days a week. I was doing one day at university, assignments, 3,000 word essay. I was on fucking gypsum and the anatomy of a jaw. You know, the temporomandibular joint up here, which is not far from where I got fractured in my last fight. I was doing that. I was trying to be a professional boxer. I was trying to have a relationship with my bird, who was now my missus, Natasha. I was trying to follow my team, Leeds United, trying to have a social time with my pals, and I was trying to promote myself as well. And selling tickets in the early stages was going along to different pubs. Anytime I heard someone was interested in boxing, I was there. Oh, my pal might come to a fight because he used to go to a fight. He used to follow him with Wharton back in the day. He used to watch Ben in Newbank and all that back in the day. Come along and have a chat with him. Yeah, I'll be there. Where is he going to be? Oh, he's in this pub in Westlake. Yeah, I'll be over. Meet him this time. Go along. Hey, mate, I heard you a bit about boxing. And have a conversation with him. Now, I was pretty shy, but I forced myself to be approachable and talk to these people. And once we started talking about boxing, I'd come out and I'd be open. And then, if I could get one more ticket sale through the door, then happy days.
And it got to the point, obviously, where you were just doing drop-offs and just literally on the go, basically.
Yeah, because
24/7.
I knew that the boxing is a sport, but it's a business. For instance, in my early stages, I was fighting on the Scott Quigg versus Jason Booth undercard in Bolton, yeah, and I'd sold 53 tickets, and the goal was 60, and my manager Steve said, Frank's not going to, Frank, whatever you want to call him, Frank's not going to be happy with Frank at the time. He's not going to be happy with that. You should have sold 60. He said, you can't even afford your opponent here. I said, Steve, it's been fucking hard. It's been hard to sell to these tickets. You know, people coming over to Bolton and that. This fight's coming short notice, and I said, I've struggled, mate. Luckily enough, Steve, you know, felt pity on me, and he was able to pay me a bit of a wage. But I realised that other managers might not pay the fighters. I was lucky to get a wage that night, and I was lucky to even have a fight. So I knew that I had to keep on building on that. So what it would be was, Trace, given like an example, was send people a message, see who's interested in this next fight. Right, lads, fight coming up, blah blah. We're away in Bolton, or we're away in Newcastle, or these tickets are this for standard. I would never fucking sell in ringsides. Everyone wanted to be together. So if you want a ringside, ask me, and I'll send you prices and blah blah blah. But I'm going to put the coach on as well. This is going to be going from this place. So I'd sort coach out. I'd pay for it myself. Normally out normally out of my commission of selling tickets. I'd organise that. They did, over time, the coach company started giving me a bit of discount, which I'm very thankful for. J&B Travel. I'd have a book. So a text would come through. Josh, I want 4 tickets. Right, no problem. John from Shipley wants 4 tickets. Josh, I only need 3 now. Fucking Carl's pulled out. Oh, fuck's sake. So I'd be ripping them off the books, putting them in envelopes, sorting all this out, taking the money in. Then I'd be selling them right up until the day of the fight. Right up until, for instance, I suffered with it with Jamie Spate, and I started to change after that, because after Jamie Spate weigh-in, I had a Mars bar and a fucking Lucas head as I got off the scales, and I went back out selling tickets until 11:30 at night. Then I get home, top of my wardrobe, gets my shoebox out, I've got fucking £8,000 there. Now, bankers and people who count money realise that, will understand it's a stress when you're dealing with all these digits. Bear in mind, I've got a fight to deal with, and I'm still trying to rehydrate and fucking get prepared for the fight itself, and I'm there. Right, that's 1,000 there. Fucking hell, I've lost track of that. Getting stressed that there should be £8,730 here, and there's fucking 8,500. Fuck me, what is it? 500. Actually, I need that pal for 20 quid for my fuel. Yeah, that's that. Write that down. And I give Dave his free ticket for free. Yeah, that's right. Let me count that bit again. And you'd stress about that.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, what time is it? Oh, it's 1:45. I better get to bed. But that was just it. That was just the business. So it was stressful. But after the Jamie Spate fight, I realised that I needed help. So my missus started helping me, and I had pals who would start, give me 50, Josh, I'll fold them for you, and I'll drop them off for you.
You then beat Samir Manemi, who people thought he could have done big things for a while. Actually, you beat Lee Selby in a 4-rounder early doors. You beat him for the vacant Commonwealth title. So now you've moved up another level. So you've not just got the English, but you've got the Commonwealth. Boxer News actually called that the fight of the night. And not only did it make you 16-0, but it was your first stoppage. And you said, I think I'm due one.
Yeah, no, I can't remember what I said, but it would have loved the feeling, to be fair. And I thought it was coming early on in the fight, because I hurt him in the 7th. But I don't know, I think he got saved by the bell. I slipped a little bit, I couldn't get him out in that whatever round I did hurt him. And it was a full on scrap, but I think the main bit was in the ring. I was looking at that Commonwealth title and thinking, oh man, I've seen that on TV. I want to be able to take that home. And I knew Samir because I'd sparred with him, and I knew how dangerous it was and how much of a tricky boxer it was. And it was a tough old fight. But I hurt him in the 12th, and I carried on chasing him because I'd seen that he was there, and I was just waiting for it. And I landed a few clean shots, and Howard Foster stepped in, and it's unbelievable to get that first stoppage, but came at the right time. You beat veteran Rendell Moreau, who you already mentioned, in a kind of torch passing fight, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then in Fortress Leeds, you beat quality Irishman Martin Lindsay for the British. So you got your own Lonsdale belt. You dropped him in round 9 and won on points. Getting the Lonsdale belt after what you'd said about Gary Sykes and that aura, how did that feel?
I'd done it. for that moment, I was king of the world. I was king of the world, and that was in transitions where all of my hardcore, all them people who had been selling tickets to it, who I'm glad to call pals and that now, you know, that's through selling tickets, you know, some of these people have become very, very close to me, you know, through that support. But that was the transition where Sky started to build a profile on me, so the circle just started to get bigger than my initial circle.
Yeah.
People started to come in who I didn't know, were buying tickets from the box office, and there was quite a bit of pressure on me that night because like I said, I'd booked Swindon War 5 weeks beforehand, and all of a sudden there it was. I mean, I was thinking I was going to have a big 12 weeks notice to my British title fight, but we were there. Barry Hearn had come in after the beat ring number one and said, "You're going to arena, Josh. You're going to arena British title." I'm like, fucking hell, he's here. You know, he's here. And oh wow, piping it because I've been watching videos of Martin Lindsay knocking likes of Denny Matthews out with left hooks and them spinning around and being asleep before they even touched the canvas. So I knew he was dangerous. It was a tough old fight. He hurt me a fair few times in that fight to body. You know, I've never been this fucking winded. But yeah, it was solid. But winning that title, like, I've done it. When we're getting out of the arena, seeing a couple of my pals, they were just, you know, over the moon for me, cuddling me. Go to McDonald's after early hours in the morning, come back home, just sat there looking at it like, I've done it. But then
the belt, not the McDonald's.
not the McDonald's, the belt. But that feeling soon went. It was like, it just, what else is next? You know, what else is next? I'm British champion, but I feel like I've done it. But then it soon disappeared, and I wanted to like fill that void again. That should have been it. That void should have been completely filled and should be content. But I want more, and then
you weren't stopping many. Did you have power?
Yeah, I had power. I knew I had power because everyone I was sparring with, like, sort of, by this stage I were pretty normal throughout the gyms in north of England. Was a decent sparring partner. You know, like
you have a spar crawler?
Yeah, I sparred Colin in the other days, yeah, and I sparred him quite a few times in the later days. From the Gallagher gym, Stephen Smith, Crawler, Scott Quigg,
Joe Murray,
what's it called, Paul Butler, mixed a few rounds with him. I mean, in all them gyms, there were always lads who were coming through, like Kane and Fallon in the early days. Sparring him. I mean, I remember having quite a few set-ups with Germany, you know, and in the gym. So I knew I had power.
Well, you did stop your next two, including David DL for the European. When you get to the European, is that thinking, okay, now this is it, or do you still have that empty thing, thinking, no, there's more?
I don't know. I don't know where my head was. To be fair, because I was still working. No change. I think that kept me grounded and humble. It's like, just take it, you know, one step at a time, because all of a sudden I'm British champion, I'm Commonwealth champion, I'm European champion. I've just knocked this guy out in 4 rounds on Sky. It looks absolutely fantastic. I can't stop watching it back on my Sky Plus box. I'm like, you know, look at end of the show, they've got like a real way, just me knocking him out. Like, it looks fantastic. Now I'm going around Leeds City Centre and people are starting to recognise me, you know, and the profile's just getting bigger. People are starting to slag me off on social media, which is,
you know, you're making it.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that a little bit. But
what were they slagging you for?
Just been where I am because I'm a ticket seller. You know, you're thinking, hold on a minute, it's only my last 4 fights I've been in front of a bit of an audience. Where have you been for the last, 11 or 12 fights prior to that? No, he's fucking just a ticket seller. Oh, he's got, just looking at the record, I've only got 3 knockouts. He's not going to make it. Maybe if I'd have blasted out a load of Eastern Europeans, they might have talked differently about me. But I was trying to deal with all that shit because I struggled in the stages of dealing with them critics, because I knew everybody on my Twitter, and then all of a sudden I had people I didn't know calling me a twat and this and that, and I'm like, fucking what, mate? Like, no one would say that to you in the street.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, people calling you cunt over social media, like, fucking come say that to my face, dickhead. But that's the one
that never happened. It's never happened to your face.
No, well, I won't once sing that in the Selby one at the Selby fight. It happened two occasions in one night. One fella had come and apologised, and he asked for the picture, and another fella was chopping behind the barrier, and James Elder was with me from IFL actually, and he were like, fuck off the kids, and there was just one fella getting married and stuff like, come on then, go on, but that's the only time. Quite recently, I was going off track here, but quite recently some fucking fella had sent me an Instagram message saying that he was going to twat me, my missus and my kids, and fucking every now and again you get something weird like that. I'm fucking not having this today, so within an hour or so I found out where he lived, what his mum and dad were called, where he fucking worked, the football team he played for, and all of a sudden I had him fucking sending me apology messages because there were going to be repercussions for that. I mean, how quickly you can find out who these people are, and it's funny, isn't it, how social media works, but anyway, moving on.
You fought on the Abraham Paul Smith bill in Germany.
Yeah.
Is that the one where Steve Wood got plastered?
Yeah, fucking.
You mentioned that in this podcast. Although I think you dropped him in at first.
Yeah, it's a fucking wanker turned into my change rooms, pissed up, saying, "We hope you'll fucking get a knockout tonight because you're fighting again in 8 weeks' time." And I was scheduled to fight on April 15th against Dennis Taberon for WBC International fight, and that was just about a bit of a tick over. And I'm getting a decent pay packet for a steady 8 rounds, so and a bit of a holiday as well. So he comes into the change rooms, like David Price is in there as well, and he's fucking pissed up. I'm warming up on pads, and he's all of a sudden becomes a boxing expert. To Steve's like, stop dropping that fucking right hand, and Dad actually said to him, Steve, get out. And he still says that it wasn't that bad, but it was fucking ill-wasted, man. What's
your relationship been like with Steve over the years?
I love him like a family member. I don't tell him that because probably if he sees this he'll think he might feel a bit uneasy because he's not that emotionally kind of guy. I think only recent couple of years he started to give me in that, but he's a top bloke. I've got so much respect for him, just because this game is full of fucking sharks and
he's not one of them.
No, it's rare to find someone who's got your best interest at heart and not there for your pound note. So he's a top man.
You have this run of fights now at the First Direct where you're basically a modern version of Ricky Hatton at the MEN, how he was back in the noughties. Was Ricky an inspiration for you?
Yes, most definitely.
Was he the inspiration for you, boxing wise?
I won't say the inspiration, but more, like one of the big inspirations, especially with myself selling tickets and things like that. You know, the first time he followed me on Twitter, I fucking didn't stop talking about it for about 2 weeks. Fucking look who follows me on Twitter, Ricky Hatton! Absolutely buzzing. So, and then obviously to meet him first couple of times, like I'm up to say I could just message him now and say, Rick, how are you and stuff like that, and he'd come back to me. But further in the early days, it was absolutely fantastic because, you know, I was still amateur when he was having his glory days against, you know, Kostya and going over to the States, and even prior to that, you know, when he was fighting like John Faxton, you know,
and then Vince Phillips,
and all them big fights, they were big nights for Sky and for British boxing. Everyone were tuning in as boxing fans, and I loved watching his journey, you know, and watching him come out to Blue Moon and seeing the fans and all that. That was fantastic for me, and never did I think I'd get to replicate anything like that or have the support that he had, but you know, we've taken percentages of that, you know.
And then you've also had Billy Graham involved, haven't you?
Yes.
So how did that come about? Was that because of what he'd done with Ricky and similar styles, or what? Just because you liked Billy and wanted to have him around?
Just because it's my old man. To be honest with you, my old man gets a lot of flack, and some people don't appreciate what he can do and him as a person, because when he talks on cameras, obviously he don't fucking look like an athlete, does he? He looks like a Johnny Vegas double, and he talks a lot of rubbish when he's talking on camera, but he also gets to see the real boxing side to him in here, and he will say that he doesn't know everything, but on things he doesn't know. He'll ask questions on people who have been there and done it. And there was a lot of pressure on both our shoulders. Because in the early days, people said to me that you need to leave your old man. He can't take you that far. He can't take you to a British title. He can't take you to European. He certainly won't take you to a world. And even himself even if he questioned himself, I don't know, but he wanted to just speak to Billy. And I think he wanted me to hear stuff from Billy that he was saying. So it's like it's been backed up.
Sure.
And not that him and Billy had a chat before and all like that, but it was on the same level. And it was when we were getting ready for the Selby fight. Obviously there was massive pressure, like I say, on both our shoulders. And everyone was backing Selby to wipe the floor with me. I mean, I was 41 underdog going into that. And it was nice to go over to have the chat, went over to Billy's gaff, and you know, obviously he's a legend of boxing, with him not just training Ricky, but many great fighters from the Manchester area. And you know, it was interesting in hearing his side of things, and a lot of things he said, I'm like, my dad said that as well. Dad said that, and when we got into the car, I went, alright Dad, I get your point now.
Validated.
Yeah, but it was interesting to see and hear how he balances fights out, you know, and say that you can take one round and you can have a round off, and remember that it's a 12-round fight and it's all about tipping scales and things like that. And one thing what stuck with me going into the Selby fight was make your mark straight away, because he was comparing it to like the Kostya fight. You know, they were massive underdogs going into there. It was eerie for them walking into the Manchester arena in 4 o'clock in the morning because of American TV. Sure. They drove in along the streets of Manchester and it was quiet, nobody about, and then they got up to the arena, it was packed. Walking in, everyone's like, alright Bill. It's kind of like a tap on the shoulder, like, good luck, but you know, whenever those come in, you're going to get beat. But he walked in the change room and seen it, Rick were on it. Rick was shouting, alright Bill, we're fucking on tonight. And he said, as they were going, as the night went by, every fucking second that ticked by, he got that bit more confident. And by the time he come to the ring walk, and they walked out, Blue Moon started ringing, he felt like a god, and he could see it in Rick, and he said there was no way they were getting fucking beat that night. And he said one of the first things that Rick did was get him in a clinch, fucking show this brute strength and let him know that it was in for a fight. And that transferred over to me with Selby. It was the first time we come to a clinch, fucking Billy was there in my head, and I fucking went to show me my physical strength, because I'm like to think I'm quite strong in all the S&C stuff. I can bench fucking 100 kg, I can deadlift 150, I can squat 140, so I know I'm quite strong in like that side of tussles. So as soon as me and Selby came to a clinch, Billy came in and fucking show me, put his in for a night fight here, and it's going to be rough and tumble bump, so that stuck with me that day.
Before Selby there was Joel Brunker, Amagassa and Patrick Hyland. Then came Kiko Martinez. I mean, they were all good educations in their own way, but Martinez, you won a majority. Did you feel it was close?
Yeah, I felt it was close just because of the way it kept coming forward, but I thought I'd still win on all few cards. I thought I dropped a few rounds just because of the way that I'd gone on the back foot and I'd sat on the ropes in spells longer than I wanted to do. You know, a lot of times when I fight, I'd like to answer, you know, questions, and what I mean by that is if I'm getting asked questions when people are throwing punches, I want to respond, and I'll respond with some more. You know, I want to land more punches than they do, and there were a few rounds where I'd sat on the ropes a little bit too much and I'd not come back with as much answers. You know, I don't know if he'd thrown 5 or 6, I'd only threw 3 or 4 in response, so I knew there were a few rounds that were close, but I thought I'd take it on all cards. A very good learning fight. I'd been out for 11 months in transition with signing from Matchroom to Frank Warren. I had an injury in between all that, and you know, Kiko were, you know, fucking. It was apparently meant to be finished that night, and he went on to win a European title and fight for the world title again. But he was finished that night apparently, but he fucking didn't get half give me an hard fight. Yeah.
Then obviously came the big night, Ellen Road, Selby. That set the standard for your career, didn't it? As the night to beat. Was that your Kostya night, or have you got your Kostya night still ahead of you?
For that stage, it was my Kostya fight, and I'm kind of in fucking Wonderland at this moment in time. You know, this is all quite surreal, but I'm taking it, Tris. You know, why not? Why wouldn't I? I wasn't meant to win a British title. British title, my pinnacle. Anything else was you know, fucking. It was a bonus. Yeah. It was a bonus. But yeah, it was a breakthrough, and everything else what comes now is a bonus as well. But I'm taking it, mate. I'm taking it. I put a lot of hard years in, and I've put a lot of time into it, and I believe I can go on and win another world title. I can believe I can be Ring Magazine champion and things like that. So, but that was a relief, because even to fights leading up, it's not like the Dennis Silan one. If I'd have lost that one, I had a lot of pressure on my shoulders that one, and I'd been the nearly man. The man who nearly got to a world title, but it would have been expected. And then Selby, it would have been, it was always going to come. He rode the wave long enough, fucking
then he got found out at the end.
Winning all Selby's vacant titles, and then he finally got beat by the man, you know, fucking, and that's the way that it was going to go. So it was to show that I'm fucking here, you know, and I've always been here. So it was nice to break through, and it was a lot of relief to win that fight. Yeah.
That was the culmination of the documentary as well, wasn't it?
Yes, mate. Yeah.
How did that all come about?
We'd have been approached by the producer Nick Ryle, and he wanted to do a documentary on boxing, and he'd approached Eddie Hearn, and I think he was going to do one on Chris Eubank,
senior
and junior,
okay,
and the relationship with them two. And I think Eddie or Barry had told him, fuck that, knock it on the head. He said, one, you work little for them, two, don't work with the Eubanks. That's his words, not mine. And he said,
that's it, we can cut now.
Yeah. Three, there's a sensation Leeds just happening now, and this was the time when I was just coming through.
Right.
He says, get up to Leeds, jump on it now. He's blowing up, like called Josh Warrington. And when we heard it was going to be 30 days of filming, lead up to a world title fight. That was start of 2016. It ended up being 2 years in the making, and over 300 hours of footage.
Are you happy with it?
I think there's a few things what could have been put in the film, but like I say, it's a lot of footage to get into an hour and a half. And Universal bought the film, and I think Nick and everything lost the rights to what went into it. But there's a few things what I wanted to be put into it, but I guess it tells a good story.
Then came Frampton. Again, you were the underdog. Did you understand why you were second favourite, or did you think that you were the favourite?
I understood. I'd beat Patrick Ireland, and I'd beat with Patrick Ireland after I beat him on the night that Carl had become two-weight world champion, and then we'd go on to become Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year after that win against Santa Cruz. I remember some of my pals even saying, fucking hell, you don't want to be mixing it with him, he can box. And I knew he was going to be favourite because the way that he boxes, and obviously Selby could box, but Carl apparently with another level. I didn't know how many fucking levels there was at this, but I knew that he would be favoured, but I had the confidence of beating him since it'd been talked about. And then when I was over to watch him beat Luke Jackson in Windsor Park, I watched that fight, and every round that went by, my confidence grew with beating him, and I just had to hold that together. You know, all throughout camp, I was strongly believed I could beat him, and I had to hold that nerve in the night.
What are your memories of the fight?
Him being very, very pumped up. Now, I try not to go too much into the fucking psychology of things, but on the way in, I remember stood looking at him and fucking being eye to eye with him, and I remember saying to him, "Are you ready for this, Carl?" And him saying, "Oh, I'm fucking ready." I said, "Go out water on a Carl." And we like shook hands, and as he spoke, the fucking veins in his neck were all pulling out, and I thought, he's fucking up for it. And then in the IBF, you've got to do the next day weigh-in, and I'd seen him again there when we were both getting weighed in. You know, Jamie Moore's there, Steve Woods with me, and he comes walking down, he fucking looks at me dead in the eye, goes in, stands on scales, and he comes back out, and he just looks at me again, doesn't say anything, and walks off. He's fucking fully on it. And then when we're in the ring, I'm bouncing off the ropes, I'm fucking absolutely buzzing. I'm in the Manchester Arena and it's sold out. I'd been here 5 years prior to watch Carl Froch versus George Groves, and I'd fucking love for a night like that to happen, and it's happening. I'm living the fucking dream here. Leeds fans at one side, Carl Frampton's fans at the other side. The noise is fucking deafening. It's like, wow, I'm in a big pay-per-view fight here. I mean, sales didn't do too great, but I'm in a pay-per-view fight here, and I'm bounced off the ropes and look over, and Carl's fucking, he's got his fancy cloak and he's storming round the ring, and he's, you know, just like, he's on it. I can see him, he's tense. And look over, my old fella says, right, give me old fella a kiss on cheek. He gets out. And I've been telling my old fella, fast start. Now we go out first round. Me and Carl's got a wide stance, got arm lower, kind of cocking that there. And I've been studying this. So you want to get range, like I said to her in the start of I get an idea of somebody's power. He flicks a few jabs out, catching him. Alright, I can handle his speed, I can handle his accuracy, but he looks like he, you know, if the right hand comes over, he's going to throw that when he knows he's going to land it. So I'm making sure that fucking left hand is coming up tight, making sure I'm closing my own distancing down and stopping him coming to me. Landed a few of my own jabs. I thought, right, I've got his number a few times with my range. In my own head, about a minute's gone. I need to push forward now. I pushed forward a little bit and he pushed back. And I thought, fucking, his footwork's very good. He's that was quick. I need to be a lot quicker, or I've got to stay with him. Minute and a half's gone. I thought, I'm gonna fucking go for that. Landed a few more jumps, but no's really been coming of too much. I push forward, but I stay with him. He pushes back, and I push forward again, and he pushes back, and he goes off to one of his sides, and I just throw left hook. And there's no in the left hook, but he comes onto it, stops, and as he stops, machine gun that with it. And you know, I've heard him say in interviews that he was hurt in that first round, but I didn't think I'd hurt him. I thought I'd left my number on him. And my dad said to me after that first round, he said, "Alright, daft lad," he said, "I wanted the fast start, but don't fucking blow yourself out." And in the second round, I got him again, but I felt I hurt him. I hit him with right hand over the top, and I felt him fall on me. Fucking hell, he is it, yeah. So I went for it again, but obviously the man that he stood with me, and we ended up having that absolutely epic fight. So
it wasn't epic. It was a British Fight of the Year, and for me though, you always seemed to hold the upper hand. Like he did once, he never really got a firm foothold in the fight after that bad start. Did you feel that? Did you feel that you always had the upper hand, or were there points where you felt the fight ebbing and flowing?
No, I always felt that if it came to it, then certainly in the exchanges they were mine. Just because of I felt a lot physically stronger than him. I felt like I could take his punch power, even though as the fight goes on, like I said to you earlier about Lara, your confidence grows, and by the time his rounds come in stages of the being on the ropes, I'm fucking loving myself in there. Like, I'm always happy to be in that kind of fight, because there's times when I'm in here and I have spars, and they're hard spars, but I'm enjoying myself. You know, you come after you finish, and it looks really violent from outside, but it's a sport we're in, and I love that little, you know, the bits of physicality. And I thought to myself, I'm having a Barrera Morales kind of fight here. You know, I'm a boxing fan. I love the sport, and that were like my kind of Barrera Morales. And as the rounds went by, he just seemed to look more and more damaged on the face. He seemed to just be a bit more hesitant as the rounds went by of throwing a punch, where in the first couple of rounds there was just flowing. It was a bit like, shall I throw it, shall I not? And I felt at any one time, if I wanted to, I could push on him and get him in that stage of having him in the fighting zone. And so I felt in quite control, and I didn't really start to box until maybe 10th, 11th round, when I started moving about on my jab, and that's only because I damaged my hand.
It was a career-defining fight. When you're flying high at this level, which is obviously when we were speaking quite a lot for BT, are you thinking that I don't have this empty thing anymore that you said that you had with the British title? You know, where you won it, you thought that there was still more. certainly with the Commonwealth title. How are you feeling now? Are you thinking, this is it, I've really cracked it now, I've cracked boxing?
Not really, because I try not to let myself go like that. I mean, I've still got, obviously I've got, you get your version of world title, and that's in my wardrobe, at home, in a case. I don't have it on display. I have a picture of me and my missus, on bottom of my staircase, what says world champion. It's from the Yorkshire Evening Post, and that's framed. That's the only thing that I've got what shows I'm a boxer in that house, because I don't want to. I would when I'm retired have a trophy cabinet, all my belts all stacked up, but I don't want to be pinching myself too much now, because I still feel there's more to come.
There's work to do.
And I don't want to be satisfied. I don't want to have that little moment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's because I'm at a stage of my career now where, you know, I could still have a legacy, even though being me, I could still have a legacy. I could still leave a dint, and even, you know, I don't think the boxing news would have ever thought that I'd got to that stage, but I feel like over the last few years I've won their respect, the boxing public's respect. I feel like I've won theirs now, but I still want more, and obviously financial gains as well. You know, I never think I get to a stage where I'm at now, where, you know, look at my bank account and say that's half decent, but you can still have more, because, you know, everything that I've sacrificed in the early stage of my life, and maybe people sacrifice a lot more, but I get punched to the head for a living as well.
Do you still need to fight? Do you think
I could retire?
I
could retire, yeah, but fucking, it's like anything, inflation happens. You want more, don't you, Tris?
Yeah, of
You want
course.
trust more, and like I said, I just feel satisfied with myself if I didn't do the things that I believe I can achieve still.
Sure.
I still believe I can win. I still believe I could beat Gary Russell Jr. and get the WBC belt. I still believe I could get that Ring Magazine belt above my head. And, you know, maybe, you know, years gone by in the future, I might say, well, you might have been happy with just winning that world title, but I want more. And it's like, I want to have them days in the States. And I want to fight in potentially Vegas or New York.
You've got your bucket list still.
Yeah, I do have a bit of a bucket list, and I think whilst it's still red hot, and, you know, I've got the opportunity to do so, why are you gonna do? I love this sport, and I realise that eventually it'll finish. I'll have to retire and hang up the gloves, and I don't want it to finish me. I want to do it in my own terms. But whilst I can do, then I'm gonna give it 100%.
The Galahad fight was one to forget. Did you get any kind of pleasure out of it at all?
Not really. Just I've done the business.
Did you think you'd done it?
Yeah.
Did you think it was close?
I thought it was close until around 7, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You know, my fight. You know, up to 7, you can give or take a round. You know, some rounds I was pushing forward and he was going off to the side, and I can go past, and he might tap me on the head, and Ed might go back. If fuck, that stands out to judges, you know. But other times when I was in trades and I was landing the shots, you know, the rounds were very quiet in a lot of times at the fight. But then after 7 rounds, going into round 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, Dom had not shut up throughout that fight, and then getting to the latter stages, I couldn't hear him. And Barry inside, he was breathing a lot heavier, and I feel like not coming back as much, so like, please fucking my hands clearly, you know. So.
By the way, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn have both done plenty for you at different stages of your career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are their strengths as promoters? Let's go Frank first, then Eddie.
Fucking hell, Tris, that's a good question. How long have we got? I think Frank, he knows the business inside out. He knows the business inside out with getting you to that big stage in good time. Like I had 3 fights with him before I had the world title fight with him, and I think that was good. It certainly actually coming up as well financially pays you, very well. Just make sure the timing's completely right. Whereas when I had my first stage with Eddie, it was like, and I think with a lot of Eddie's fighters, as soon as you get onto a certain stage, and it's boom, 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 it all comes very, very quickly, and some of them can't hack it. For instance, a comparison, Lewis Ritson, you know, become British champion, fan base behind him, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 it happens really quickly. He's fast tracked, and before he knows it, he's looking at world. And I think that's something that we just wanted to make sure the timing was completely right with that, and I think Frank had to understand with that. So probably that point with Frank, but in terms of promotion, Eddie's fucking ruling it. He's absolutely smashing it, and now I ain't saying that because he's my promoter now, but remember I left him at one point, and he's obviously still learning the game as it goes by. He's only been in the game for fucking 10 years or so, but in terms of promoting a fight, I don't think we can match him. Let's not. People say whatever they want now, but let's not forget when I fucking turned pro and I've been in the sport and I've seen everything behind closed doors and things like that. Shows were on Sky Sports. You had Frank Maloney, and the likes of Ricky Attenborough's promoters and things like that. We had a British title fight as a main event, and you had a chief support, an 8-rounder, someone who was local, someone who was from Leicester or wherever the show was held. It'd be an eliminator. That's all it was, but they would eliminate for an English title or a British title. Since Eddie came on board, fighters are now household names again. It's made everyone else, it's made Frank raise his game, it's made all the other promoters raise the game on how, not just how the fights are matched, but how the shows are run, music in between the rounds. Now it might be a pain in the ass for fucking trainers trying to get the instructions out, but it's what people want. They want a live atmosphere. It's a thing to go to a boxing event now. It's not just going to because they're watching somebody there who they know. It's a thing to go to a boxing event. Sponsors are on now on. Sponsors what? It's not just a construction firm on people's shorts now. It's big names what are on.
Huge brands.
Huge brands are on fighter shorts now, and I do think he's glamorised it. And
like you got loads.
I'm fucking Lewis Hamilton, aren't I? They'll go around the back. They'll go around the back, but
do they actually? You got them on the back?
I've got them on the back, Tris.
Bloody hell, yeah. Okay.
I've got them on the back, and I've got a few more to go on there as well. But I think you know, he's certainly made fighters, you know, like fighters, like a.
But to be fair, because he's got such a big profile that elevates his guys even by being linked with him.
Just himself,
and
people do give him stick for that, and they say, no, he fucking loves himself and that. And yeah, if he wanted to put in, he probably would fucking eat himself. But I'm a joking head. But there's a strategy behind it, and he's very, very clever. And like I say, I think a lot of people think that he's just after the pound note, but I do think he's got the fighter's interest as well.
Just obviously, you have one more fight, then we're back up to Lara. In terms of the physical damage from Lara, concussion and that kind of stuff, you said it took weeks to shake and feel normal. What were the lasting effects? Was it mostly the jaw? Was it headaches? What?
No, not like headaches. But the jaw was annoying because just chewing my food and the way that I was speaking, that wasn't.
Oh
great.
yeah, so that was something I wanted to ask you about, because I spoke to you a couple of days after the fight for the ring, and you'd said about you were slurring, but it was because you had a swollen lip.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of worry that it wasn't the swollen lip? There was
no. I knew it was all that stuff. I get some fucking stick on my because of my teeth anyway on social media, especially because I'm a dental technician. But I've got wisdom teeth out of place,
right?
And I should get them taken out. To be fair, so anytime, even when I spar, get a tap to the jaw, my cheek digs into the wisdom teeth. Now after the fight, because I had a fractured jaw, I went to go see a specialist, a maxillofacial specialist, who deals with all these kind of injuries. And I was looking inside my mouth and he said, Jesus Josh, he said, your mouth is black and blue inside. He said, there's so many cuts and bumps and bruises amongst the wisdom teeth digging into the side of my mouth. So that were all causing swelling. So that was part of it, as well as the lip and everything else. And I'd put a video up like a day or so after the fight, I ended up taking it down because it looked a lot worse than
Oh
it
yeah, I
actually
remember
was.
that as well. Yeah. And also, so going back to as well, crowds, no crowds and stuff. You had this aura as the Leeds Warrior and stuff, and you were bulletproof. Do you still feel bulletproof?
Yes, I still feel like it's just a bad night at the office, and it gets. We're probably finished, aren't we, as boxers, because you get beat and it's
One
done.
loss.
Yeah, one loss and it's done, and it's a fucking shit side of the sport. But then, how many fighters have lost and come back, and then all of a sudden people forget about the loss.
Basically all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
People forget about the loss, and
Yeah.
you come back and you do the business, and it's just sport. You know, in 11 years and 30 fights, I've always got it right on the night. I won't say that every time I spar I fucking get it right, because I don't. And there's times that I'm fucking dog shit in this ring, and I've had hard sparring sessions, but I've always made sure I got it right on the night. And this time, or the last time, sorry, I didn't. It's just one of them things. I'm only fucking human.
Recently, Headingley said that they weren't going to host your fight.
Yeah.
How big a blow is that? Because that was one of the dreams, wasn't it?
I believe it's going to get overturned.
Okay.
I believe it's going to get overturned, and hopefully we'll be having that fight there. And just a shame, really, because of the long time and the pandemic. It's been a hard time for everybody mentally. Businesses have been affected as well, and it'd be an event what people can look forward to. Businesses could thrive with it. Obviously, we're talking about 20,000 people in attendance there. You know, there's going to be a fair few people spending their hard-earned cash in bars and that prior to the fight, and it's just a shame. A few councillors thought that it wouldn't be a great event for whatever reason. The stadium's been there since 1897, over 100 odd years, and there's never been anything like that there, and the Leeds Runners are very, very keen to have it. So we're hoping can get overturned and we can have it.
Maybe the I predict a riot thing doesn't go so well with the cricket crowd.
Maybe so. Maybe like on the cricket side of things, but on the Rhino side of things, it would work well.
Yeah, of course. So at the start, obviously, you said it was a 12-year window to win the British title. You've had the 12 years. So what's the end game? What happens over the next? Well, how long are you going to be fighting for and that kind of stuff?
When the boxes are ticked, I feel like I've had to add 15 months on to my career just because of COVID. Now, I said to myself as I was younger, I'll retire when I'm 30. I'm 30 now. Now, when I beat to coach, I was 28, and I turned 29 that November, month after. Re-signed with Eddie. I'm 29. I'm looking at fight with Kanju, unified champion at 29. Then potentially a fight in August, maybe September or October against like Gary Russell, because that was a plan with Eddie. We're gonna move quick, and fucking hell, I would have accomplished everything I've ever wanted to accomplish as a featherweight. Then I'd have turned 30, and then into 2021. Well, at the time, Joseph Diaz Jr.'s IBF super featherweight champion. Could potentially step up and try my marbles at that, and if I do that, then fucking hell, I'd be at a stage where, well, let's see how satisfied I am. Let me see if that feeling's still there. If I've got a full stomach,
as well,
I'll see if I want another fight. But if I did get another fight, I'd probably get another fight before I'm 30, and then I would have called it a day, because I would have thought that them 3 fights and then potentially moving up a weight, it'd be more than satisfying. I don't want to fucking go on to be a Mayweather. I'm not going to be a 4, 5, 6 multi-weight world champion. No, stepping up would be happy for me. X amount of money in the bank, British legacy more or less sorted, and don't try to take too much away from boxing, because boxing takes an awful lot from yourself. So just get out at the right time and maybe have a testimonial in Leeds, come back and get me a fucking noddy and I was steady 10 rounder.
And what's the plan after boxing?
I don't know. I have ideas, but I think I'd have a year of just enjoying life.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably weird for people to hear me say that. It's just like, fucking, what do you mean means don't enjoy life. I do enjoy life, but may I be a human being without having boxing in the back of my mind. Yeah, completely switch off with it, because it just don't go away.
Do you have a bucket list away from boxing?
There's a few things. I just want to enjoy life, and that sounds a bit fucking cliche, but it's only
it doesn't sound. It sounds vague. What do you mean in terms of like doing proper dad stuff? And
just being a human being.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, as you know, having extra pound notes in your bank can add up to other opportunities, but there's other little things what don't need money. You know, just little things like you say, just being a normal, you know, husband or being a normal pal, being able to go to the pub and not have to worry about what I'm eating or what I'm drinking, you know. And I know I chose this life, so I'm not fucking complaining about it, but I look forward to that. And then there's so much to do in life, you know. If I wasn't a boxer, I'd have travelled the world. I'd have tried to travel the world, see different parts of it, play different instruments. I learned myself to play guitar off YouTube. I'd like to learn to play the piano.
Electric guitar or classical?
Classic, acoustic.
Are you good?
I'm half alright. I could do a few more lessons, but I'd like to learn to play the piano. I'd like to be multilingual. I'd like to learn another language. I'd like to ride a motorbike. You know, little things like that. Just there's so many experiences to do in life. I'd like to jump out of a plane, and now that's just a one day. It's a one day thing, but
good thing to tick though.
Just little things like that to be able to tick, as well as just having, you know, having normal life. I like to set up a few businesses. Now I have a fair few houses, but I want to set up a fair few different businesses. Mrs, if she wants to get into some kind of a career, she's had to put everything into back burner for me to do mine. She could do that. I'll fully support her, but that's just it. And it's like a normal routine of and again, I know people that have the jobs where they might be lorry drivers or work away from home, but I'm used to having my tea at 10:30 at night, you know, when I finish training.
Well, I think the thing is,
having my tea at 5 o'clock and going to bed at like a normal human being.
I think you've got it right in the sense that you are living the life now, and that the life that you're living, you fully understand that this isn't forever.
Yeah.
So it's give it your best shot now, and then you can take your foot off the gas, and that's probably why you're looking forward to switching off, because you're on it now, and this is it, and you're not going to be on this boxing treadmill for too much longer.
Yeah.
So it's about giving it your best shot while you are on it.
I think that's some fault of some fighters. Maybe it's because they don't know, and maybe that's something why we do need some kind of bigger support system from the board in letting fighters know that you need to have a little bit of a plan after.
Sure.
You know, invest a little bit of your wages.
Yeah, because if you hadn't made the money you made, and you're not sure what you know, you didn't know what you were going to go to, you'd be in a bad spot now.
This is it, and a lot of fighters fall into boxing, young lads, and they miss out on going to college, university, trades, schools, and when they finish the boxing, they don't have anything to go into.
Yeah.
So what do? They don't know what they want to start doing. They don't want to pick up like tools to become a bricklayer at like 34, 35 or whatever, become a plasterer. You know, maybe they're not the most academic, so they're not going to go sit in offices. So what do? I think some people do need to have a plan, but I think that could be helped by the board.
Yeah, sure. I've got some questions from some of my subscribers here. Esel Cody says, most fighters, when their trainers get criticism, especially for not throwing in the towel, don't have the relationship you and Sean do. How do you deal with that and analyse criticism post-fights? Sean should be a comedian on the side, by the way. I mean, he's a full-time comedian, so yeah. So yeah, how do you deal with that? And also, like, you know, obviously people do want you to throw your own dad under the bus sometimes.
I'm not prepared to do that because he's give his reason of why he didn't, and we had a chat with that. We've had many chats about it, to be honest with you. Now it's at the stage I just take piss out of him. I take piss out of him and say, you get fucking some rights, dude, you're scandalous. I'm laid on the floor. There's a picture where I'm laid on the floor and he stood over and he's pulling his tracky bottoms up. I said, look at that, you disgrace. You're supposed to be a fucking old man and that's how you treat me. He's like, what do you want me to do? To
be fair, that's such a topical thing, isn't it? You know, obviously we've had Billy Joe Saunders in the last few weeks, obviously it was Daniel Dubois. This whole thing about corners and the word quitting in boxing and all the rest of it, you obviously, it's such a big debate, it's so topical. Where do you stand on all of that in terms of corners pulling out fighters and all the rest of it?
I think as fighters you need to talk about it prior to a fight, and obviously you never want to hear, or you don't want to be talking about the L loss.
But a fighter's never going to turn around and say say, if I'm struggling, pull me out.
No, of course, and I think that comes down to the relationship between the fighter and the trainer.
Sure.
Now, my dad gave his reasons after, and I said, listen, I wouldn't have fucking mattered anyway, because I was hurt. I was very hurt in that fight. By the time I got to 8th, 9th round, my punch resistance had gone trace.
Yeah.
Like I said, it didn't feel like it was the biggest hit in the first 3 rounds, and then from then onwards, every time he hit me, especially in the last couple of rounds, I felt fucking like the biggest punch in the world would hit me. Every punch shoved to my boot. Everywhere, mate. Every time he hit me to the head, it would be fucking going right through me, like a shot down my nervous system. When it got to my body, every punch was winding me. I was in agony. I'd landed on my AC. I damaged my AC when I landed in the 4th. I landed like that. I landed fucking full body weight like that. So my shoulder was throbbing. I knew my ear was perforated because I've had that done in the past. I didn't know my jaw was fucking done, but I could feel cuts in my mouth. So, but I just wanted to fucking see the final bell. In my head, I was still in the fight. I was still fucking doing alright down to the points. And in my head, I was going to go for it. If I'd have got through round 9, because I had 10, 11, 12 championship rounds, I was going to go for it. I could see that he was fucking marked and he was swelling from behind, he was blowing heavy as he was marching forward. So, I was going to go for it, Tris, but after my dad pulled me out, he said, listen, you'd have never forgiven me if I'd pulled you out. I said, yeah, because I was in it, Dad, that's the reason. Now, when I come back after the 4th, I sat on the stool. In the first 10 seconds or something, I was still a bit fucking all over the place. But then, the last 30 seconds or so, I was there, I was switched on, I was back in the room. And he asked me something, and I just responded it back to him. He said, what did I say? And I responded it back to him. He said, right. And he said, when I sat you down, as soon as I sat you down, I kept eye contact with you. And he said, you kept eye contact with me throughout that minute, and when I asked you a question, you responded. He said, I had the towel ready, but I would have given you that extra round because you've been caught in that round, but I've seen you inspiring. I know how fucking tough you are, and like father and son aside with me, your health's more important. But I went out with 5th, I won the 5th. So it's like, I know what I've signed up for, he knows what he's signed up for, we both know what we're in for. Boxing's an hard sport, so expect that there might be a knockdown, expect that you might get fucking cold shot, expect it might be but just get through it. And
what's your take on the quitting thing? I mean, is that a word, I'm assuming it's not a word you use frivolously? I've often said myself, and I'll be honest, I've been guilty of all the nonsense talk where, I've said I'm not bothered about fucking going out on a stretcher as long as my arm get raised, and probably it's not the right things to say, especially over the last few months of different things happening, but it means that much, Tris, it means that much, and I realise that we're in a fucking hard sport. I'm not naive, and I do think of the precautions. I do think of times when I look over the sport and I think, fuck me, the amount of time I've been punched to the head over the years, sparring or not. I know we've got head guards on and big gloves on and stuff like that, but I do think to myself, I wonder if I'd have been different if I only got punched to the head. But it's risk versus reward. Sure. I chose this sport. There's people who choose to sign up for the forces and lose like legs or arms in explosions or get shot at, and or suffer with PTSD.
Exactly, it's the road that we choose, and you've got to expect a bit of flack. I think it's sometimes, if you're going to say it and then we've got to come out if you're going to come out your mouth, then you've got to be fucking willing to stick by that. And obviously trainers have got a job, and they've got to look after, and that's what you pay them to do. You pay them to get you in good condition, and they pay when it comes to a fight, they give you instruction in the corner and look after your health. Because as fighters, we won't fucking quit, because it's the way that we're tuned to be. We're tuned to go out with our hearts on our sleeves. Like I say, I would have been disappointed to to being pulled out, and I was disappointed to get stopped, but I understood why I got stopped. I was taking a lot of punishment. Like I say, I was in fucking pain, but there's no way I would have stayed on that stool, or there's no way that I'd have turned down, or no way I'd have dropped on a knee. It just wouldn't have happened. I'd have fucking carried on taking that punishment, and I just, I think obviously then it's not done them many favours with like Billy Joe, for instance, saying what he said about Daniel Dubois.
Sure.
You know, Daniel Dubois, I've heard words with him saying that he felt like he was, his eye was falling and stuff like that. Well, I haven't been in that situation, so I can't comment on that feeling. All I do say on that situation is, well, that feeling must have been really pronounced, because how do you know what's happening in that 40 seconds of you sitting on the stool or you taking that knee? How do you know actually it's not just the fucking... Because we all get damages and welts and stuff in training. I know what perforated eardrum is like now because I've had it passed, but I didn't know the first time I had it. When the first time I had it against Damagas, I didn't know. For me, it was just fucking... I thought I might go deaf after this, but it didn't fucking matter because I wanted to win. That was most important. So sometimes some people take that to complete extreme, like myself, and some people just say it and they don't really mean it. But I think we all should maybe tighten our lips a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm a bit fucking all over there with it.
It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one because when you have someone like a Daniel Dubois, for instance, whose eyes swollen, who can't get out of the way of Joe Joyce's right hand, and obviously you talk about boxing taking more from you than it gives you sometimes. Well, obviously, he's taking clean right hands and he can't get out of the way of them. So is it sensible to take another couple of rounds of right hands long term down the line with the damage that might accumulate for a young guy? Probably not. Nick Taylor says, I've really enjoyed listening to Josh when he's done bits of punditry and podcasts on BT and BBC. When your in-ring career is finished, do you see life after boxing in the media or as a trainer or away from the sport completely?
I think I'd have to be part of the sport. I mean, be a pundit would be absolutely fantastic. I think I'd have to have a few allocution lessons.
You've got that wrong. Yeah.
I think I'd have to work on the pronunciation of a few words and try to come away from the Yorkshire, Leeds kind of accent, because sometimes I talk a little bit too fast, and I have worked on that on a few interviews I've been doing, trying to just slow down. But if I get on the subjects what I'm passionate about, then I talk a little bit too fast. But I wouldn't mind being able to do that. Trainer, I help out some lads when they're sparring, for instance. Reece Moore, Maxie Hughes, I've sometimes give me a little bit of advice, and I could see myself doing that. It'd be hard to walk away completely from it. I don't think I'd want to dabble with bits of management and stuff like that, because fuck that stress.
Where are we now? Derek Wolsey, what's the best thing and worst thing about selling tickets?
Best thing is meeting people. Like I say at the start of it, I've met so many great people who are happily call friends and good pals, and I wouldn't have met them people if it wasn't for the boxing and selling them tickets. But the worst thing is those who mess you about. It becomes a stress and they don't realise it, and I understand that things happen and predicaments change, but in early stages I've had people say to me, I want 15 tickets, Josh, and all of a sudden that just turns to 3. And that's not because people have just decided not to go, it's because they forgot about it, and then they've not been asked to tell their mates about it, and then next minute you've told your promoter that you're going to be selling like 1,500 quid's worth of these £100 tickets, and you're only selling fucking 300 quid's worth, and that has affected in the early stages of your career. Like I say, we're business people as well as fighters, so that's probably the worst bit.
From Norman Barton, as your career progressed, there were many doubters in the boxing world. He's British level, not European, then he's European level, not world. Your self-belief was apparent. Are the foundations of that based on your work ethic and working with your dad? So, where's that self-belief from, where you think that you can kicking it up to the next level?
I don't know where it comes from. I think it's maybe...
I suppose you did say earlier, like when you won one of the belts, you were like, oh, I think it was a European in the 4th round. You were like, well, that was alright, so I've got a bit more in me.
I liked that. I liked the feeling of, I've said to you earlier, I liked the feeling of having that pat on the shoulder. I liked the feeling of doing well, accomplishing things. Competitiveness, that's always been there. So when people tell you can't do it, then you show them that you can do it. And certainly when it got to the stage where people were writing me off, it was like, no, that's right, if I want to show you that I can do it. And we've all got time, haven't we, to do on things. A lot of people say that talent is just can only take you so far, and everything else is due to hard work. And I think that's something that I've done. You look at someone like Anthony Crolla, who he was on the verge of his career being over against fighting like Kieran Fowler for English title. He went on to win world honours because he just fucking persevered and constantly in gym, and that's all I've done. Spending hours and hours and hours of, you know, straight after the fight, I wasn't happy with that. I wasn't happy with that. I could have done it better. Being obsessed with it, pushing myself on a run where I'm telling myself what critics have been saying about me. I can't do this, I can't do that. Just constantly pushing myself and battling against myself to be the very, very best. And you know, when it comes to it, when that first bell rings, there's only you in there. You've obviously got a team in your corner, but you're taking the punishment, you're dishing it out. And if you can't do that because you aren't prepared for it, then fucking, you know, it's a lonely place to be. And I never wanted to be dissatisfied with that. And if I've given it my all and it's not been enough, but I've prepared for it then 100%, then it is what it is.
Have people written you off now?
Yeah, completely. I'm fucking only the other day. I went on YouTube and I seen highlights from Lara fight on what Sky Sports have put up, and I thought, oh, let's have a little nosy at the comments. That's what happen when you trade with a Mexican. Like, fucking Mexicans have a God-given right to be better inside fighters than us. That's what happens when Warrington stands toe-to-toe. Obviously, he's not got the power. Yeah, fucking, I'd fight a year against Frampton, so toe-to-toe. That's Warrington exposed, no head movement, this and other. Not many comments said fucking just had a bad night at office. It was always something like, oh, I told you so, forgetting about everything else what's going on. But there's the same people.
Are you like, no, that's not me, or are you like, is that fuel for the fire? Is that do you take that with you on runs, reading that stuff?
Bit of both. It's fuel for the fire, and yeah, it's not me. I'll fucking show you that. But you learn to take it as you develop, as you create.
Yeah.
You get a thicker skin. And these same people are probably saying, oh fucking hell, it's done alright Warrington when we win the rematch, and etc, etc.
Nice one, Josh. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. I really enjoyed it. It's been great to catch up.
Appreciate it, Tris.
Thank you, mate.
Top man.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, buddy.